Caesar immediately jumped on his horse and rode over 100 miles through a crazy stormy night to arrive just in time for the vote on July 2nd. That's almost 4 times the normal pace, and that's if the weather's good.
Caesar Rodney.
Caesar Rodney.
Caesar Rodney.
Caesar Rodney was born about the year 1730 to a family of wealthy planters from Delaware. Caesar was the oldest of 8 children and was tutored by his parents, but received no formal education. His father died when Caesar was 17, at which point he inherited the family's large estate. At an early age of 28 years old, he was appointed as High Sheriff in the county where he lived. Well, this is quite a prestigious position to hold, especially for someone so young. And when his term of office was expired, he served as a justice of the peace, a judge of the lower courts, and a legislator. Following the trauma caused by the Stamp Act, as well as the joy when it was finally repealed, a committee consisting of Mr. Rodney, Mr. Reed, and Mr. McCain were appointed to express their thanks to the king for his kindness at relieving them from the heavy oppressive burden. They said, quote, "We cannot help but glory in being the subjects of a king that has made the preservation of the civil and religious rights of his people and their safety and ease and prosperity of his people his chiefest care. Of a king whose mild and equal administration is felt and enjoyed in the remotest parts of his kingdom. The clouds which lately hung over America are dissipated. Your Majesty will always find such returns of duty and gratitude from us as the best of kings may expect from the most loyal subjects." Well, this letter was greatly received by His Majesty, who enjoyed it so much he decided to read it twice. Unfortunately, the repeal of the Stamp Act was followed by other oppressive measures which frustrated the colonies and led to the revolutionary movement. So another letter was written by those same 3 gentlemen, stating, quote, "If our fellow subjects of Great Britain cannot represent us, and can at their will and pleasure give and grant away our property, if they enforce an obedience to every order or act of theirs, and deprive us of all and everything that is dear and valuable to Englishmen, we cannot imagine a case more miserable. We conceive it to be an inherent right in your Majesty's subjects, derived to them from God and nature, to give and grant their subjects those things which their own labors and cares have acquired and saved. With the greatest of uneasiness and distress of mind, part with the power of their beloved king," unquote. Well, in late June 1776, Caesar found himself campaigning all across his home colony of Delaware in support of American independence. At that time, despite having been elected to the Continental Congress for the last 2 years, Caesar couldn't rally enough support back home to gain the majority vote from the delegates. So on July 1st, just 1 day before the important vote, Caesar received word from Thomas McCain that his presence was needed to secure a majority vote from Delaware. So Caesar immediately jumped on his horse and rode over 100 miles through a stormy night to arrive just in time for the vote on July 2nd. And with his important deciding vote, Caesar Rodney was able to sign the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776, at about the age of 36. And about this same time, Mr. Rodney left his public duties to seek some medical advice for a cancerous infliction which had began on his nose and was fast spreading over one side of his face. Skilled physicians of Philadelphia brought relief to him, and he didn't need to go to England for help. but they also were not capable of completely eliminating it. Being embarrassed of his condition, Caesar just wrapped his head in a green silk cloth to hide his face. And with his determined spirit and his good work ethic, it is no surprise that Caesar would go on to serve his country for several more years, despite his condition. As his health began to decline more and more rapidly, the council he was appointed to traveled to his home to hold their meetings, showing just how important Caesar's attendance was to his colleagues. The cancer finally brought him to his grave in 1784 at the age of about 55. Charles Augustus Goodrich writes of Caesar Rodney, "He was a man of great integrity and of pure patriotic feeling. He delighted, when necessary, to sacrifice his private interests for the public good. He was remarkably distinguished for a degree of good humor and vivacity, and in generosity of character was an ornament to human nature." I love Caesar Rodney. Do you realize that the distance between Delaware and Philadelphia is over 100 miles, and horses usually only go about 20 to 25 miles a day? Wow, he made that trip really quickly. And also, he was not proud about his physical appearance. Simply, he wrapped his head in a cloth and continued on with his duty, even for years. The end.